As we inch closer and closer to the second Republican debate, and as the process continues to unfold for Trump's legal troubles, it has become abundantly clear Republicans are stuck with Donald Trump. Welcome to Counterthought. So I've touched on the topic of Donald Trump v. the rest of the field a couple of times in the life of this podcast. I was a Trump supporter, voted for him twice, 2016, 2020. I knew then and I know now, nothing has changed with him. He is a flawed candidate. He's not like the most polished individual. He's not what we, I guess, would have in a perfect world whenever it comes to a presidential candidate, but he was a great president. He was one of the most successful, if not the most successful presidents in my lifetime. The policies that he said he was going to stand for and to implement and pass and everything within his administration, he has done, especially the big ones. The Supreme Court, 3 justices, that is unheard of. However, there are flaws to Donald Trump that came back to bite him in 2020. We used to joke, no more mean tweets. Well, surveys and polling show after the 2020 election that his mean tweets actually did have a significant impact when it came to a large swath of his supporters in 2016. The suburban moms. Suburban moms, they want to know that their kids are safe. They want to know that their kids are receiving a good education. They want to know that nothing is going to be taken away from them when it comes to their rights. They want to know that they, can rely on healthcare and good jobs and a good economy and a good education for their children. And they talk amongst each other. And women are like more of a group. They would be more in agreement with one another. Not saying that there's not individuals. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when they get together and they talk, and women communicate with each other more than men do, especially verbally and emotionally, they say like, hey, I'm really kind of put off by what I'm seeing here, by the tweets I'm seeing, by the words that Trump uses, in his speeches, and how, bombastic he is, and how much he attacks those that are against him. And that resonates from group to group within the suburban mom community. So for the reasons why Trump is not, outside of the reasons why, he did not get elected from a COVID standpoint in 2020, there are plenty of things that he is responsible for. There are plenty of things that he is responsible for that he has not yet corrected in his now 7 years of his political life. My belief when Trump was in office is that if Trump spoke the way Pence spoke, just 50% of the time, that Trump's approval rating would have been above 50%, probably would have been around 55%. The last president that we've seen that high would have been Barack Obama. That if he would have just spoken more eloquently or picked his spots, when to attack, right? Because that was necessary to fight off everything he was going against in his first term. He needed to attack, but he didn't need to always attack. And he didn't just attack those who are, in the Democrat Party. He didn't just attack those that are in the deep state, the never Trumpers. He was also attacking those who were within his own camp that may have a disagreement with him. And we've seen that play out today, right? We've seen him attack those who were part of his administration that seem to be close allies just because that's what he does. He does not have a filter. He does not have any type of reflex that says, maybe I shouldn't say that. Prime example, Kayleigh McEnany, press secretary for Trump for the last year, I think maybe 2 years of his presidency, about a year and a half, just attacked her out of the blue because of something he interpreted that she said during one of her outnumbered hosting spots on Fox News. She has been loyal to Trump, and he talks about loyalty all the time. But where is his loyalty to those that he expects to be loyal to him? That's something he needs to account for. He says, "Oh, DeSanctimonious, Ron DeSanctimonious. Ron's not loyal to me. Ron was begging me in 2018 to get him elected over Andrew Gillum for the governor's race and for the state of Florida. And now that he's running against me, he's not loyal to me." Okay, well, where is your loyalty to those who have been loyal to you? It seems like the only one within Trump's inner circle that has not caught any kind of flack for anything, has not been attacked, is Stephen Miller, who was in charge of his, southern border policy during his first term. But where is Trump's loyalty to others? Talks about, Mike Pence, he's running for 2024. He's not loyal. Okay. But Trump, where is your loyalty to him? And I know all the MAGA right now is probably freaking out watching this episode saying, yeah, well, Pence wasn't loyal to him because he didn't do what he was supposed to do and that he had the right to do and the capability to do legally to stop the election, the electoral votes from being counted in the Senate, in Congress. He didn't do that. So he wasn't loyal to Trump. Why should Trump be loyal to him? Yeah, well, MAGA, if you would, step into the real world for a moment and hold off on your fandom for Trump, you would have known that Pence could not legally just stop the election results. I mean, that's been proven, right? And you need to understand that. Trump expected Pence to do that. You say, oh, wait, novel legal theory. No, but the vice president doesn't have the capability to just stop the election results. If that was the case, every vice president before Pence could have done the same thing. And then that would have set up, presidents never leaving office, which is one of the things that the Constitution was guarding against, that it wouldn't be like a kingdom that was over there in England, which is what our founders fled. So Trump has issues that continue to haunt him, things that continue to just shoot. He just continues to shoot himself in the foot. And if Trump would just be more polished, the struggle that Republicans are facing of, do I support him or do I support another candidate who I think can maybe accomplish the same things or similar things, have the same policies as Trump, but isn't going to come with all the extra baggage, isn't going to come with the, let me check my X account, formerly Twitter, and see what, the president is saying today, and just kind of cringing as you do it, just like swiping, scrolling, like, not good, not good. Again, it's been my long-held belief that if Trump would just shore up his messaging, if he would not be so careless in his campaigning and his daily messaging. It's great that he used Twitter to reach the people, because we know that the legacy media, the liberal media, which is about 90 to 95% of the media out there, are against him. It's great that he was able to use formerly Twitter, now X, to reach the American people, to reach you and me. However, his messaging while doing so became problematic. Again, we used to joke, no mean tweets. However, those mean tweets came back to bite him in the butt in 2020, especially with the suburban women, the suburban moms. So if Trump could just stay on message, when he's on message, he is great, right? It won him 2016. And I believe that if COVID did not happen in 2020, that he would have won in 2020 as well, because he had the roaring economy. He was coming through on his policies. There were no new wars, but he just, because of COVID and everything that was changed in the elections, that was just too much for him to overcome. He was able to overcome his careless messaging and his bombastic nature and the way that he attacked individuals, because everything else was so good. But you throw on COVID and everything else as a result of that on top of it, and it was just too much to overcome. But those are the things that he needs to shore up in order to win in 2024. And this brings me to this masterful plan, as much as it pains me to say it, this masterful plan that the Democrats have come up with in order to face off against Trump in the general election in 2024. Now, it's been long discussed that the Democrats' plan was to make Trump easily win the primary election of the Republican Party. And it seems like that's going to happen. He has about a 35 to 40 point lead over the next highest candidate, which is Ron DeSantis. And that lead has only grown over the past few months as these indictments have been rolled out against him, going back to, I think, May with the New York indictment. And then now we have Atlanta, and we have down here in Florida with the classified documents case. And then we have another one in Washington, D.C. regarding J6. So he has 4 indictments. 2 are state, I believe, and 2 are federal. Yes, 2 are state, 2 are federal. New York and Georgia are state, and DC and Florida are federal charges. And the Democrats played this masterfully. What they did is they knew that Trump has locked in about 35% of his support is his MAGA base. 35%. MAGA, for those of you who are unaware, are those individuals who are going to stand by Trump no matter what. Trump famously said he could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and with his support of his MAGA supporters, he would not be arrested. He would still have their support. And that's true. So Trump locked down 35%. So what does he need to get to? He needs to get to 50%, 48 to 50%. So we need another 12 to 15%. He's probably going to get the other Republicans, like myself, who voted for him twice. That's maybe another 5 to 10%. But the independents are the big question mark. And what the Democrats did by going forward with these 4 indictments, and you can say like, oh, these are legit, and you can say they're lawfare, political lawfare. But what they did is they got Republicans trapped. And I'll admit this because I started off, I have an episode, I think it's around episode 25, 28, somewhere around in there, saying that Trump is going to be the candidate for the Republican Party in 2024, and he needs to be. I made that episode back in late 2021, or it may have been around January of 2022. And then as everything was playing out over the last year or so, I was like, oh, well, DeSantis got a lot of notoriety for how he handled the state of Florida during COVID and how he was, standing up and fighting against the liberal media that was trying to pin him as, in the pockets of Publix because the state of Florida decided to use Publix as one of the primary locations for seniors to go and get their medications, because Publix made a $100,000 donation to his campaign. Yeah, well, if you lived in Florida, you knew anything about Florida, Publix is about, a stone's throw away, no matter which way you're facing. So that was a logistical decision, not a campaign donor decision. But I was like, all right, DeSantis is out there disabusing the media that's trying to attack him. Everyone seemed to like that. Whenever the 2022 midterm elections were done, everyone was thinking, well, DeSantis, he's like Trump, but he's more polished than Trump. I think he can still get everything done and through like Trump policy wise. So, there was maybe it was like a 30-25 kind of between the two. They're within about 5 points or so after the 2022 election. And DeSantis had a huge victory in 2022. He won by, I think it was about 20 something points over Charlie Crist. But DeSantis stayed true to his responsibilities as governor. He did not declare until after the legislative session in the state of Florida wrapped up in April or May of this year. And then he had his Twitter X launch. Probably should have done something video related instead of a phone call, but he tried something new, whatever. But DeSantis has not gotten back up to where he once was right after the 2022 election. And with these indictments against Trump, where the way it is trapping the Republicans is that Republicans, again, he has this 35% MAGA base. And Republicans that were thinking maybe DeSantis, very similar, but, he controls his language better, his messaging better, his communication better. DeSantis is not the same personality as Trump. He doesn't storytell. A lot of politics is about storytelling instead of policy, and that's a whole separate issue. But all of that, everyone that was looking to DeSantis as potentially being their choice instead of Trump now feel obligated. Many Republicans, myself included, have now gone from Trump to DeSantis and now back to Trump, because we feel this obligation. We see the bigger picture that these political indictments against Trump are not just, against Trump. What it's doing is it's setting the precedent, that laying the groundwork for this to happen again in the future, not only to presidential candidates or former presidents, but it is also going to affect our voting, our democracy. Literally, we hear about, threats to democracy. Well, this is literally a threat to democracy. In some of these cases, the indictments against Trump, they are penalizing him for having conversations and saying that's not confidential conversations with his lawyer. They're saying that trying a novel legal theory, whether it is right or it is wrong, is illegal. But yet we saw that with the student loan cancellation, debt forgiveness. Biden said he knew that wasn't right, but he did it anyway. He also said the same thing when it came to, I think, the rent moratoriums. He said he knew that wasn't right, or no, using OSHA to try to force the V mandates upon individuals. That was a novel legal theory. He went ahead and did it, but I don't see anybody going after Biden and his lawyer saying that was illegal and, breaking the law. So Republicans see the bigger picture, and that is why they are now caught between a rock and a hard place. Like, okay, well, yeah, like I support Trump, but now I have to support him. Because this is just bigger than Trump. And he's famously said, they hate me because they hate you. Trump is just standing in the way. He is, the martyr. So the Democrats have played the Republicans perfectly. The Republicans are now forced, whether they want to or not, to defend Trump, not only for Trump, but also for the future of the democracy and within our country. The only thing that has arisen now, however, that is getting the Democrats a little bit worried is how bad Joe Biden is. Again, the Democrat strategy was, let's make it so that Trump is guaranteed, through these indictments, guaranteed to win the Republican primary. Again, he has a 35 to 60 point lead. Seems like that is going to happen. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. He's going to win the nomination unless something crazy happens, which it could. I mean, this is America now. But they wanted to lock him in for the win of the GOP primary, which would then catapult him to the general against Biden. And there are other pieces that are being laid out, talking about masking up again, talking about how Biden's excuse will be not only that, he needs to mask up and can't travel around to campaign stops, but he's also not going to debate Trump, because why would he debate someone who is charged with 80 some odd 4 indictments and 80 some odd charges? Why would he debate someone like that? That is beneath him, yada, yada, yada. That's what they're setting it up. That's what they're setting up for the general election in 2024. But because Biden is so bad, national polling shows that Trump and Biden are even. So that's throwing a curveball into this Democrat strategy. They thought for sure that they wanted Trump. You notice all their attacks are against DeSantis because they think DeSantis could win enough of those independent voters and the suburban women who Trump lost in 2020, that DeSantis could win those back. So the focus of the attacks is on DeSantis. However, because Biden is so bad, Trump is still a threat in the national polling to Biden. And that has the Democrats worried. They had a masterful plan, and they have pinned the Republicans in a corner. However, the support for Trump is now equal to Biden because Biden has been so bad. And that leaves, again, the Republicans stuck with Trump, whether they like it or not. Again, Trump is careless with his messaging. He is careless with his communication. Not to mention the fact that reports are that he has siphoned off about $50 million from his campaign fund in order to fund his own legal fees. If you have donated to Donald Trump for his election, did you intend for your money to be used for his legal fees? The legal fees of a billionaire? He should be able to handle his own legal fees, correct? Does that irk you? Does that bother you that you're donating for one thing, the election, however, the money is being used for something else? Not to mention, no support for those on J6th for their legal fees. No mention of support or asking for donations to support their legal defense fund. One of the guys who just got convicted and sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for text messages being sent, as wrong as they were, but 22 years for text messages, got charged with seditious conspiracy. Can Trump speak about that, or is he not allowed to speak about that from a legal standpoint? But Republicans are now, despite all of this, whether you like it or not, faced with Trump. He's got the 35% MAGA base, and he has not pledged that he would support the GOP nominee if it was someone other than him. So there is a legitimate fear, and it's evident not only within GOP voters like myself, but also the RNC, the Republican National Committee, because they fear that if Trump was not the nominee, that he would then run third party, in which the Republicans would not have any chance then of winning the general election in 2024. And the RNC is so fearful of that happening that they're trying to get all of the candidates in the primary to pledge support to the nominee going into 2024. And Trump hasn't signed that. He hasn't said, yeah, good hard fight, good sportsmanship. I'm putting all my support and want all my supporters to put their support behind the nominee. He hasn't said that. But the RNC wants to lock it down that, he will pledge his support. And a little piece of paper worth of pledge, like that's not going to do anything, but maybe that helps them feel better. So there's this legitimate fear that Trump would take his 35% MAGA base and run third party. So again, if you are a Republican like myself, we are now stuck with Donald Trump unless something crazy happens. The Democrats had a masterful plan to trap the Republicans to support Trump. However, Biden is so terrible, now their plan is threatened of not being successful because Biden is so terrible. So as a Republican in the Republican Party, are we going to overlook all of the shortcomings, all of the negatives that surround Trump and put our support behind him and help him and hope that those who didn't vote for him in 2020 but did in 2016 are going to come back in 2024? And Trump needs to be the one to actually earn back those voters, to win them back. He needs to change his behavior. He is not acting presidential. That's been the biggest knock on him. But Republicans, whether we like it or not, he's the one we have to support, because the alternative is a Democrat win, and they're becoming more and more radical. We've seen everything that has happened. We've seen the policies that have been implemented. We've seen the executive orders that have been signed. We have seen what their platform is, whether they deny certain things or not. We know what they are. We have the receipts. So despite your opinion of Trump, the alternative, which would be a Democrat victory, is worse than whatever you think of Donald Trump. Hi, I'm Brian Kletter, the creator and host of the Counterthought podcast. Thank you for watching this video. Remember to like it, and then also check out these two videos and subscribe to the channel. For more daily content from me, you can find me on Instagram at CounterThoughtCEO and the official Counterthought Instagram page at counter_thought. Thank you for watching, and spread the word.